I am Ben Doc Askins, the psychedelic science war storyteller, and this is the Anti-Hero's Journey podcast. What's up, all you anti-heroes out there? Doc Askins coming back at you with another one of these Q5 podcast episodes that I know you love so very much, where I ask my 5 favorite questions to some of my favorite people wandering around still above the ground on planet Earth here. So I've got a treat for you. I've got my friend Chad McLean, the CEO and founder of Mental Joe Apparel, on here. He's a husband and a father and a volunteer of all sorts of backgrounds. I think it was the Special Olympics and Habitat for Humanity in there. He's a good dude, all around good dude. It was a ranger once upon a time, allegedly. Done all sorts of cool stuff. I'm glad to have you on the podcast, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me. And allegedly, I always call myself, if I may, the broke dick ranger. Right? I was there long enough, but ended up blowing myself up on a jump that I burnt in on, and that's kind of where history took a turn for me. So
you're just leaning forward far enough that you managed to collect all the scuffs, right?
That's it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Means doing it right.
Yeah, so no, I appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to kind of diving into the backstory and the why behind Mental Joe and how we kind of came to be of sorts. So, kind of my story is I'm a Montana kid. I grew up in Billings, Montana. Grew up in a single parent household. I was the middle of 3 kids. My brother's oldest. He lives in Chicago, and then my sister lives up in Prescott Valley here in Arizona, and we reside right now in Peoria, Arizona. But grew up there, grew up extremely poor, had a very verbal and physically abusive dad. I probably took quite a bit of the brunt of it. I had a brother that was, he was excelled in school and just kind of kept to himself. And you had the younger sister that, she just kind of rolled with the punches, had 2 older brothers that were going to protect her. And, she had it, she kind of had it made, I guess you'd say, with 2 older brothers. But yeah, so
had a little
the
top
story
cover.
goes, and I hate. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And I hate saying it, but the story goes is, the reason we call our company Mental Joe is, I'm a pretty average Joe. I'm just trying to make it through life to the best I can, be the best husband, father, friend, family member as possible. But I have these stories that I repeat to myself over and over and over, and I have done for 20 plus years. I'm not worthy of love. I'm a loser. And, we tell these stories to ourselves over and over enough. We believe them. And, for me, the catalyst to clean up my cobwebs, if you will, and I know we'll get deeper into it, was ketamine. But, for 20 years, I, was on some kind of SSRI or some kind of pain pill because of my back. And through growing up, we just kind of grew up tough. Like I said, we're really poor. My mom worked 5 to 6 different jobs. I helped her clean offices. And I was a C student in high school. I was more of the social butterfly. I stopped playing sports when I was a sophomore. I didn't practice enough. I just didn't care enough. I wanted to be around friends and stuff. But with that, knew my runway was slowly coming to an end in high school, and I had no plan at all. So enter the military. So I went into the military, and I think some of that kind of reflecting now and kind of connecting some of the dots was the military was my way to maybe go prove to myself that I could hang and be with some alpha males and maybe even be a male role model that I needed because I didn't have that at home. So went into the military and went in as just a good old 11 Bravo grunt, didn't score well in the ASVAB. Again, I'm a C student. I just didn't give a shit. I just knew I had to put my name in a box, checks a couple things, and off I was going. I didn't care what I was doing. Like, I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, jumped into the ASVAB, went 11 Bravo, and just put my head down. I was very used to working hard. Working hard was easy for me. It was not strenuous at all. So basic training to me was pretty easy. It was just put your head down, shut up, do what they tell you, and you're not going to, rock the ship essentially. And about the 8th week in, which in infantry, I think it's a 12 or 13 week total with, the end there. I ended up getting a airborne slot. So I got an airborne slot given to me. Same thing. The drill instructor, I remember him, calling out my name and like almost pausing, like, we have this guy in the platoon. Where is this guy?
The
Who the
gray
hell is this
man.
guy? Yeah. So, I was doing what needed to be done, right? To not be noticed, but to do a hard enough job and push through to where, I got an airborne slot given to me.
Yeah, that's the move.
You know, from there, went into airborne school, and the 75th Ranger Regiment liaison came down. In fact, 75th Regiment is literally, I think it's 2 miles from jump school, might be a mile and a half. I don't remember exact, but he came down. And I was like, yeah, man, I can wear a black beret. Shit, yeah, let's do this. That's before the Army issued everybody black berets,
right.
right?
Yeah, they swapped it out for the recruiting commercial. That was the whole reason I signed up, right? It was just the hat, the floppy
Yeah,
hat.
the
Yeah.
hat, the beautiful black
My
beret.
head's
Now
cold. What do
now
I
there's the
do?
khaki or
Join
the
the
tan.
Army.
Yeah. So went down and got into RIP, which is the Ranger Indoctrination Program. Went through RIP. Again, same thing. I don't know numbers wise, 100, 200 guys in class, something like that. It was a big class. I think they all normally start out pretty large. And then I think we ended up graduating something like 30 or 40 max. So, you can see the cut rate on that. So, I made it through. He's a Hall of Fame Ranger. His name is Jeff Struker. I was his last RIP class.
Okay.
And I remember him
Legendary.
very dearly. Yeah, very legendary. And I remember him talking to us as he's smoking us outside before a long run, doing flutter kicks. And I remember him just walking, through formation saying, gentlemen, I won't raise my voice. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to cuss. I'm not going to yell. He goes, but you're going to know when I'm upset. And you'll find that out this morning. And so he kind of told us his story about Mogadishu and how he's a reborn again Christian. He was getting ready to go into officer candidate school because he was going to go be a chaplain, which he all accomplished and became a chaplain for the 75th Ranger Regiment. But man, we knew he was upset. This dude took us on a run that very few individuals made. I actually made it. I remember him running by me and just saying, keep pushing, we're almost done. And that was a pivotal moment for me just in RIP, knowing, okay, I have the gusto to do this stuff. I got this guy that's a Hall of Famer, in Ranger Regiment who everyone looks up to, telling me, keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
So I graduated RIP, and then was stationed out at 2nd Ranger Battalion out in Fort Lewis, Washington. Was in 2nd Battalion for I think right at a year. And what happened probably about the 6th month or 7th month mark, I was getting ready to transition over to sniper section. There was some talk. We had to fill some different slots. I was actually a Gustav gunner, which is a 84 millimeter recoilless rifle.
Carl.
Yeah, that's it, Carl. People know they know, and it's a beast. And so getting ready to transition over to sniper section, and we, lo and behold, we did a night jump into Spokane Fairchild Air Force Base. It was a whole battalion jump. We were doing an airfield seizure, and you know how those jumps go. They don't usually. There's quite a few people that get hurt on those jumps because it's a large battalion. You're jumping at night. We all know the round shoots that there wasn't much of a give back in those days. You couldn't really pull on risers and guide yourself. It was more of a safety thing. And I ended up burning in. I burnt in on a jump. I don't remember if it was 50 feet, 2 feet. I don't. It was just, I remember a chute below me and knowing that I had to run off the chute so it wouldn't take my air. And before you know it, I'm waking up on the ground. And it's pitch black.
Oh, wow.
And I'm feeling my legs, and I'm wondering if I got a compound fracture, and both legs are completely numb. And I'm laying there, and time is nothing to me. I have no idea how long I was out. I have no idea how long I was laying on the ground for. But that's where essentially I would say life altered largely for me. And the reason I say that night is, as you know, in most combat arms, it's here's your Motrin, shut up and drive on. Well, imagine being in one of the most elite infantry units in the world, and you're in, essentially part of the SOCOM, and you don't say anything. You shut your mouth. There's plenty of dudes that got hurt. In fact, we lost readiness status on this jump, and I believe a lot of 2nd Ranger Battalion guys that I've run into, They still use that jump as a learning lesson because so many things went wrong. The Air Force flew the
Oh,
wrong
wow.
way. The jump masters let us jump out the door. We had guys hitting hangars. We had guys hitting planes. And I never knew any of this, obviously, until the debrief, and we were back at Lewis and we are talking about it. But even at that time, everything was so fuzzy. I think I major concussion, and so at that point, I just started popping pain pills. Um,
Sure.
as you're very aware of, there's these little towns that are just on the outskirts of bases where you get your BDUs pressed or you get your hair cut, and
Yeah.
there's massage parlors to pharmacies to you name it,
Used
you can
car
go to one and get
salesman,
got.
and yeah, it's just a ring around
Yeah,
every active duty post, right? I got a great deal for you. It's got a full
that's it.
tank of gas, man.
Yeah, yeah. And so being a being a spec 4 in Ranger Battalion, I was like, okay, I'm on the uptick here. I've got to settle in. I got to figure this out. And before you know it, I got no emotional intelligence to make these decisions, and I'm popping pain pills, and I can operate on them. And before you know it, it's a perk, it's an oxy, it's ibuprofen, it's whatever I can get, right? And I'm just storing this shit up because it's not every day that my back hurts, but it's more of that sciatica, right? Like everything is good for about a week or two, but man,
Sure.
you just turn wrong or something, and
Yeah.
it's game
Just a
over.
little
You're done
inflammation
for
and the
four.
whole
You
thing
can't even.
stays inflamed. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, and you can't put your socks on, your boots on. So in lieu, boom, pain pills. Let's go. And so that was my demise. I started popping pain pills. I started getting in fights, started drinking way too much, was stealing from the PX, just a myriad of just shit decisions. And at that time, battalion was kind of a free for all. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And candidly, I think we're going to make an example of this guy to let these other Yahoos know that if they don't straighten their act up, like there's a lot more that's going to go down. I was brought in forth in front of Bravo Company 275, First Sergeant Grippy. I remember it vividly, and he roasted me right in front of the whole
Oh,
company.
wow.
Um, had to confess to what I did, and again, as we all know, bat boys, right? Bunch of testosterone, a
It's the
little bit of blood in the
come
water.
to Jesus moment. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. And so I took punishment, man. And I took punishment on a pretty regular basis for, I'd probably say, it's probably close to 2 months. And I would say that was where a lot of the trauma and a lot of the fight out of the corner stuff, because I already had that with my dad. I was already fighting out of the corner constantly. I was never. I realized recently with some psychedelic treatments that I always fought out of a corner,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
so some of the battalion stuff just added to that. It was just like, okay, well, I'm pretty good at fighting out of corners. Like I already do it. I
Sure.
knew, in my mind, failure equals punishment. So I deserve this. It's
Yeah.
coming. I have it coming. These guys got to prove a point. Bring it.
It's
Let's go.
trauma bonding.
Um, yeah, yeah. So that was it. Went from there, and then I got kicked out of Ranger Battalion. I went down the road to 125th Infantry Division. Where I believe that post is no longer in Fort Lewis. I think they all reside in Hawaii now, the 25th, essentially electric strawberry, if you will. And so that was it. You get a kid like me that, didn't have a real good father figure growing up. You feel that the military is going to be that for you. You get in there, you're excelling, and then the next thing you know, the wheels completely fall off. And I am starting right where I signed up, just 11 Bravo, bang, bang,
Yeah.
grunt, and to try to sit with that, to be, close to the tip of the spear, because that's where a lot of guys start their soft careers off, is in Ranger Battalion, especially in the Army, right? That's where they start it. And then from there, they, kind of walk that ladder up. And that was the goal. That was the dream. That was, I wanted to be a tip of the spear guy. And when I blew my back out and I got kicked out of a battalion, I felt that was the end. I was like, there's no way I'll ever, make it through selection.
Sure.
There's no way I'll ever get back to battalion. And I was busted. No one knew. I was popping pills left and right. I was depressed. My back was hurting. I was a freaking wreck. Um, but that's kind of the large pivotal moment where I think everything for the last 23 years, sadly, was all tied to was that incident over in Spokane.
Yeah. Major tipping point for you headed on. Sounds like a downward spiral.
Yeah, yep. And it just ensued. From there, when I got out of the military, I went back home to Billings, Montana, And, at that time, I think Billings was maybe 80,000, 90,000 max, maybe bringing in some
Okay.
surrounding areas. So, in general, it was a small city, small town, whatever label we want to put on that. But, same thing. What do you do? I go back and started college, ended up getting recruited by Allstate Insurance and went and had my own Allstate gig for a while. And, you know, prior to that, though, I was working at the city of Billings, and, shit, you're just a blue collar working guy. I'm a street and traffic guy, and there's a
Sure.
bar at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
top of the road every Friday, and we're up there drinking
Yeah.
every night. So, and I'm still on pain pills, so I became a hell of a bar fighter. I fought shit. I don't think there wasn't a weekend. It'd be rare if a weekend went by and I wasn't in a bar fight.
Sure.
I think it was just so much anger and disappointment, resentment to myself, and knowing that how bad internally I was beat up with my back. I think I just kind of went into the mindset of, someone whooped my ass, who cares? Like, I'm already beat up. Like, break my neck, you do me a favor, really.
Okay.
So just I was in a complete downward spiral for, I would say, easily 20 years. There would be points in that 20 years where, things would go good. I'd be single. I wasn't in a relationship. I just focused on me. I started losing weight. I didn't, so I knew there was another potential. I knew that old kid that had the gusto to get through RIP was there. But I think my confidence and everything was just so beat up that the only way I felt like I gained any kind of respect or authority was whipping a bigger dude's ass in a bar than mine.
Sure.
And then people saw that and said, "Oh, we're not going to mess with this guy. He's a little loony," and that's how I felt I could gain
Yeah.
respect. Um, so
Protect yourself.
that's kind of the 10,000 foot version, if you will, of kind of where I got to, and um, where the suicide attempt took place almost 3 years, just a little over 3 years ago. Um, and what happened there is the same thing. I was wore out. I think I was tired of the stories in the head. I continued to fail. I continued to falter. And, like many other stats that were out there, you didn't think that there was another way out, right? I was doing the SSRIs. I was on anything from a Wellbutrin to a Paxil to
Sure.
Zoloft to, I mean, you name it. I ran through them
Yeah.
all. And I think I was just tired. And, like I said, roughly 3.5 years ago, almost took my life. And, I'm very candid about it. I went into the cuckoo bin. And I was there for almost a good 2 weeks, and, just had kind of an epiphany, telling my wife, like, something has to change. I don't know what's going on in my brain. I don't know what's going on, but I know there's certain aspects that are not connecting, and I need help. And I'm done doing this pill thing, and I'm done doing talk therapy because none of it works. And all I do is keep repeating the same damn story to a different person, and I'm tired of it. So my wife ended up finding ketamine, and went in
Way to
probably
go,
3 weeks
Carrie.
later.
Shout out to
Yeah,
Carrie.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So she did that, and I candidly told her, like, I really don't want to know much about this. I'm gonna go in blind. Like, I don't want to set up any, expectations or thought processes around it. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna listen to the clinic, what I got to do, and we're gonna play ball. Like, I was just open to change, anyways. And I think better probably than anybody. That's the first step forward. Like, when you're at that pit, like, it's time to step forward and figure out another method. And so I went through the ketamine, and, before you know it, I was doing ketamine. So I did the initial 6 blast that they do
Sure.
up
The
front.
induction.
And then from there, like, I really started paying attention to my body, right, and understanding the gritting of the teeth, or the clenching of the hands, or the speeded up heart rate, and realizing, okay, again, these are tools that everyone has, but we don't realize that, how powerful they are. So, I started realizing my body, and realizing that I get agitated at certain things. And so then I would tell Carrie, I was like, okay, I think I need another ketamine hit. Like, I got to go in and reset this brain again. So after the 6, I feel it was probably every 45 days I was going in and getting a ketamine
Yeah, that's
reset.
good.
And then from there, it went from 45 days to like 65 days.
Nice.
And then 65 days turned into
Yeah.
90
Yeah. Yeah.
days. And then 90 days turned into quarterly. And the whole time that I'm doing this ketamine, I'm bringing myself off of meds, because when I came out of the cuckoo bin, they put me on 150 milligrams of Effexor, and you know how big of a dose that is. I was completely dead to the world. I was numb. I had no feelings. I was just a walking zombie. And probably a year into my ketamine treatments, told the wife, I said, okay, I think it's time. I think I'm in a pretty solid spot. It's time to come off this stuff. And so I went from 150 milligrams down to 75, because that's the next. What's weird is that's the next break in
Sure.
medication. It doesn't go 150 to 125. It's 150 to
Sure.
75, 75 to 37.5, and so forth. It's how they put the breakdown on these is besides me.
We can have that
But
conversation a
so
different day offline. I'll explain the math to you. All right. Yeah. There's a reason.
yeah,
It does make sense. But yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
appreciate it. But for us knuckle draggers, I'm like, what the shit is
37
going
and a
on
half.
here?
What the hell? Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
I get it.
So I go from 150 to 75, and holy shit, I now understand maybe the effects of someone that goes through that has alcohol withdrawals or is a heroin addict and they're coming off of this stuff. My body hurt so flippin'
Mm.
bad. I don't think I got out of bed for like a week. I just don't, like, all I could do was just take a shower and brush my teeth and just kind of slowly get her. I was in pain. And she's like, "Are you sure you don't want to go back on?" I said, "No, like mentally, I'm in a very strong place. I know this is going to hurt. I know it's not going to be for long, but I have to push through this because I'm done being on this shit." So finally got through the breakthrough, maybe 3 weeks, maybe on that fourth
Okay.
week, I kind of saw light at the end of
Okay.
the tunnel and everything was kind of starting to feel normal again. So now I'm on 75. So another 6 months goes by. Now I'm probably ketamine every 6 months. I'm probably every 6 months to 4.5, maybe, depending upon life and the situations. So same thing, still doing ketamine at the same time, and so now I'm at 75, and I looked at the wife again. I said, "Okay, heads up, I'm coming down again. Like I've got to get off this stuff." And week 1 went by. I was like, "Okay, that was pretty easy." Week 2 went by. Okay, that was pretty easy. Before you know it, I'm on 37.5. Now I'm on this 37.5 for probably 2 months, and I finally said, "Okay, I need to be done with this stuff. I've got, like, just mentally it felt good. Like my diet was in line, working out was a part of my life again. Like I had all these other things that now I have put into my life. We call it in this space integration,
Right.
right?
It's a
So
good
now
word.
I have all these new things. Yeah, now I have all these new things that I have latched onto that are much more healthier for me. I said, all right, we're done. So I ended up doing a psilocybin retreat. And during that psilocybin retreat, the only thing for 6 hours, I kid you not, all I saw was a white pill bottle that literally came into a screen, almost if I was looking at a big
Mm-hmm.
movie screen, and it would just fade right back out. That's all I saw for six
Wow.
hours. And so kind of after the debrief of that, with the coach that I was with, I was like, "Hey man, like this is really all I saw. Like I tried pulling my mom in, I tried pulling my sister in, my brother, my wife, my boys, anybody that I thought maybe I had larger issues to deal with, and nothing came to fruition at all. It was literally just this pill bottle." And so when we were talking the next morning and kind of sitting there on the patio, and I was like, "What do you think that is?" And he just kind of looked at me. He goes, "I personally," he goes, "I think it's the mushrooms telling you you don't need the drugs anymore. You don't need to be on the SSRIs. I think you could probably come off that completely." And mind you, I was still on 37.5 milligrams of the Effexor, and because psilocybin and SSRIs have a problem with each other, it's like two rams butting heads. The dose, I almost took a full 8 grams of
Sure.
mushrooms to counteract the SSRI. So I took a heavy dose. It wasn't just your 1 or 2 grams. It was a healthy dose of mushrooms, and that's literally the only thing I saw this entire time. So that morning I went home and I opened up the old pill bottle and threw those things down the toilet, flushed them, and it'll be this November that I've been off of SSRIs completely now for a full year this November for whatever I took them for the past 22
Wow.
years or so. And I have to say, I mean, not only was I in a good space and I had, you know, a wife that stood by me and knew the shit that I was going through, and she could hold that space for me. But to be off of that stuff and be in a true foundation of where I feel I am as a human being now is like, okay, like there are other ways to do this. And that is kind of why I'm such a large advocate for psychedelics. And then through that, that's where essentially Mental Joe was rebirthed as an apparel company through the psychedelic
Yeah.
experiences. So,
Yeah. You're kind of doing a great job of pitching me a softball for the second question there, right? Like, I appreciate you,
yeah,
opening up and sharing about your story and about all the, the skull dragging through the hard times that you've done. And I know you're functioning a
yeah.
little bit like a scout down there in Phoenix, trying to figure out some good places for people to go to. And if you're
Yep.
in Arizona and you need some good advice about places to go for some treatment, you might be a good guy to reach out to, as far as I'm concerned. But
No, yeah, 100%. And I'll just piggyback on that before you
yeah,
jump in. The wife and I know you're going to talk with her soon. We have people probably on the daily that reach out to us, and the reason they do it is just because, again, I'm that average Joe. I'm not the tip of the
yeah,
spear guy. I did fail. I wasn't there, and I am the guy that worked in the insurance company and corporate real estate for 20 years. I am.
yeah,
I'm your
yeah,
average Joe, and people are resonating with that to the case where we have right now we have 5 veterans that are in ketamine clinics that we essentially
yeah, yeah,
recommend here in the valley, and then I've got one buddy who is currently doing ayahuasca in Peru for
mm,
3 weeks on the Heroic Hearts
yeah.
project.
Those are good
So
people.
it's really cool to yeah, it's really cool to see, right? Because we have people that have been watching us from the sidelines or just over the fence, and now they're reaching out, and they're reaching out in droves to the point where almost Carrie and I cannot keep up because we have people reaching out, and I'm texting, or you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
how it is. There, you
yeah,
get hit up on LinkedIn or Instagram or your cell phone, or it's like I can't keep up
yeah,
with it all. But the good thing is people are reaching out, and that was the whole point behind Mental Joe, is to let people know there's other methods, there's other modalities, there's other ways of healing, and we can get out of this traditional box of here's your pills and let's talk about it. There's other ways to go about this
yeah.
business.
Well, and I think you articulated that perfectly. So I won't even try to add anything to it, but I'll just roll on to the next question about what I asked you about your story, which is about your past, right? And now I'm going to ask you about your intentions.
Yeah.
Where are you headed with the next chapter?
The intention, yeah, I mean, the intentions for this is to be a very noticeable brand, right? I always say eventually, and I look at like our t-shirts because they're fun. Like you guys can kind of
Oh
see
yeah,
if you're watching video, the grenade hat that I have on. We try to elicit those conversations with those types of t-shirts, right? Kind of in your face, but little subtle, hints of
sure.
psychedelics or what have you. But eventually, we want to be an athleisure brand. And the reason behind the intention set for the athleisure brand is the athleisure wear industry is $330 billion currently.
Yeesh.
Okay. It's projected to double by 2030. So I tell people, like, imagine if I had a freaking sliver of that,
Sure. Yeah.
right?
Give me 1% of that,
You
and
would
I will
have,
quit my day job.
yeah. Well, it's not even that. I just look at like I want to use capitalism for what it is, right? But I also want to flip it on its head. We all know the grotesque stories of nonprofits that get all kinds of money in, and sadly, only 5 or 8% actually goes to the veterans themselves, right? Because sadly, most nonprofits, what do they need? They need cash to operate, right? So that's where we're like, well, why wouldn't we be an apparel company? We could sell something, we could draw a message, we could build a community. People are going to be wearing these shirts, which is going to create other people to talk about it. The brand will grow. And then once we are profitable, we can use profit for a purpose. And we can turn around and we can write checks to Heroic Hearts or No Fallen Heroes or Healing Frontline Heroes, or the myriad of foundations that are out there that have veterans that are going to their retreats, overseas, and some of them, right here in the United States via the Etho churches, right? But that's my whole goal. That's the intention. Is if if I could be an athleisure wear company, think about it. You're a doctor. You don't want to wear the big, psychedelic thing, but if you had a really cool, clean polo that still represented mental health, and it was like a Lululemon of the average Joe poor
Yeah,
man
yeah,
version, you would
yeah,
wear that polo, you would still support the brand would grow, and now I'm writing $1 million checks on a quarterly basis to these foundations that, guess what? All they do is heal
yeah,
people.
yeah,
They don't
yeah,
have to worry about golf tournaments. They don't have to worry about galas. So that is the full intention behind the brand. Make the brand so big that I'm writing checks to these foundations. So all they have to do is focus on the healing. They don't have to focus on raising money, right? If you need money, go raise money, but use that to, run your organization. Let us be the money. Let us be the wheelhouse that writes the check so you can actually go heal these people. And you don't have to sit here begging corporations for it. I'll be that corporation for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that is the large true
I
intention
like it.
behind
That's
Metal Joe.
genius. It's like it's a cool funnel that everybody wants. It's like a water slide funnel. Like, yeah, this was fun, but you're hoovering up a whole bunch of dollars to send out and do good things and pay forward, right?
Exactly. And we're set up as a 501(c)(3) too, right? And so the whole, again, the thought process of that is maybe there's someone that really believes in the plant medicine space, but they're in a corporation and they're like, we don't want to really donate because we can't be really tied to the plant medicine. But hey, maybe this apparel company, and if we give him X
Yeah, yeah.
amount of dollars, that'll help him, catapult his company
Smart.
forward. And then boom, on the backside, like I said, profit for a purpose. Oh, and guess what? Now you get a write
Sure.
off as well.
Yeah.
So you help the company grow.
Yeah, you're
I
thinking
mean, we
strategically.
kind
That's
of
good.
set it up that way. Yeah, so we try to set it up that way to where it's a continuous circle of giving and being able to be above board. And my biggest thing is be transparent. I've got a CPA and a bookkeeper, and that was the first two people we hired because I was like, I don't want our books a mess. I want it to be clean. Like we file every freaking quarter. People can go look how big in the
Yeah,
red
yeah,
I
yeah.
am,
Yeah.
So I want to be transparent because there's not enough nonprofits out. I'm not saying all, but we know there's plenty out there that don't do what their intentions
Yeah,
are.
it's an
So,
integrity check. And I appreciate that. Absolutely.
yep.
So that's a beautiful intention, and I'm all for it. You let me know where and when you need me to pitch in on any of that stuff, and I'll do what I can with whatever I got.
I love it, man. I
But
appreciate it.
you know, looking ahead, looking back, the bridge that I like to use
Yeah.
between those two things is gratefulness for like making sense of things. I think gratefulness is a superpower. So, what are you grateful
Yeah.
for, man?
Man, I don't know if there's too much that I'm not grateful for now,
Yes,
to
there's
be
the answer.
honest. You know, I got a beautiful wife. I got beautiful kids. My family's good. I wish my mom and my wife's uh, dad. I wish they were both in way better health and could enjoy things a little bit more with us. But I understand too that time is of the essence in that standpoint. But I really am. I really, before these last 22 years, I didn't really live present. And I never understood when people say, you got to live present, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Live present. Like, I don't, that doesn't equate to me. I don't understand that. I do now. I can literally sit in the moment and I can stare at my boys and I just watch them for who they
Yeah,
are. I watch them
yeah.
play. I watch them make good or bad decisions.
It's the best,
Um,
man. It's the
and I
best.
really just, yeah, my wife just calls me the creeper because I will just sit there and I'll just sit there and stare. Because I am of the know now that this is all we have, right? And I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
trying to be woo woo or booga booga or anything weird, but like the present is really all we have, right? I don't know what the next couple hours
If
are
we
going to
even
bring.
have that
Like
much.
the whole world could come, yeah, the whole world could be crumbling here in
Mhm.
the next hour. There there could be something that completely, off roads my ability to to function, whether I get hit in a car accident and I lose a leg or whatever. That's going to happen, right? That's already set in stone. Same with Mental Joe. Where we're going with Mental Joe, it's already happened. I already know where we're going with this thing. I just got to build it there. And so I'm so grateful. I mean, for my health, I'm down a total of 50 pounds now.
Good for you.
I was easily
Yeah,
70
good for
pounds
you.
overweight. Um, so I just, I smile a lot more. I walk a lot slower. I shake a lot more hands. I say hi
Yeah,
to
you
more
gave me a
people.
coin at
Um,
psychedelic science. That's why we're friends, right? I wanted one of them shiny little
yeah,
coins and you gave it to me and now we're friends.
I got more too, buddy. I got a couple extra. I'll send some to you. Um, but yeah, I am. I really am grateful for a lot of things. Could there be certain situations in life and during the day and hours that could be different? Yeah, but I don't let them rock my boat like they used to. I look at them for what they are. So yeah, I know it's a long-winded answer, but goddamn, there's a lot of things I'm grateful for, and the ungrateful stuff is very, very small now in
Yeah.
my
No, that's
wheelhouse.
beautiful, man. I love that answer. Absolutely. So, with all of your story and all of your intentions set and all the
Hmm.
gratefulness in your heart, what are you creating?
Man, I think I'm creating, and I hate using the word legacy, right? But I think I'm creating something here where when I'm dead and gone, the apparel company will continue, whether it be the boys or we get bought out or whatever that looks like. But I feel we're creating a community and an awareness that you don't have to live in maybe that suck job 9 to 5 that you just hate, right? There is other ways. We are all creative in one way or other. We all have passions. We just got to find out what that is, right? And sadly, it took me hitting rock bottom to find out what my passion was. And that's just helping people, right? At the end of the day, like I said, I lived in the gray for 20, 22 years. And so when I hear somebody that's in that vulnerable state, I really go back to those really dark days that I had because I can relate. I know exactly what they're going through. I know how they're
Sure.
feeling. I understand the helplessness that they feel. So I feel that we're creating a huge awareness camp around just being not only a good human, but hey, like I know psychedelics is really weird. I know mental health is really weird to talk
Yeah.
about. And sadly, our apparel company is taking on mental health and psychedelics all wrapped in one pretty little bundle. So, we're trying to create something that says, hey, these are hard conversations to have. We know they're hard conversations, so let's have fun with them.
Yeah.
And let's really dive into some of the things that
Yeah.
not anyone's really
That's
wanting
what I'm
to
talking
touch.
about.
So I was a brash guy when I was at corporate America. So I'm like, screw it, man. Like now I have no one tell me what I can or cannot say. So now we can now we can turn the volume up a little bit more.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. We're it makes me think of Step Brothers where they show up in the tuxedos to do their job interview, and they're like, how about we do the interview?
That's
Why
me,
don't I
boats
ask
and
you some
hose.
questions?
Boats and hose.
Nice.
Yeah, it's having that freedom, I think, right? And knowing that, you always want to do right by everyone. You don't want to ever offend anybody or piss anybody off, but it's going to happen and there's going to be your haters, and I've already got some haters and they're looking over the fence and they still check in. It's kind of fun because I'm like, how you doing? I see you still there. It's
Yeah.
all good, man. I'm not going anywhere, so you better
Yeah.
buckle
I
up.
like it. I like it.
So it's kind of fun. It's a little bit of a grind on this apparel stuff, as I kind of relayed to you a little bit ago. But yeah, it's a grind. But man, am I learning so much stuff every single day of how this business works and how, if you maneuver it correctly, what you can kind of create to talk to the masses.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff, man. Well, that brings us to the fifth and final question on the Q5 podcast here. Who are you really, Chad?
All right, who am I really? Um, Man, I feel, and I've made this comment before on another podcast, but I really feel like I'm finding who that 17, 16-year-old goofy kid used to be. Like
Okay.
I said, I wasn't, I didn't play the sports. I was the guy that dressed up in the mascot and was goofy and was running on the field. And I was the guy there for Spirit Week, right? That wore, back in the day, we could probably get away with it. We can't do it now, but I dressed up as a cheerleader, but I dressed up as a cheerleader colors from the opposite school. It was nerd
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I was that guy. I dressed up for
Yeah.
Spirit Week. People looked forward going, okay, what's Chad coming in today? What's he got up his sleeve? So I feel like I'm getting back to that creative, like, I don't care. I'm trying to have fun. I live life once, but being respectful, but also being, just trying to be a loving, caring individual, because I know we are all going through some sort of a battle internally. Our tagline is conquer that battle within.
Yeah.
So conquering the battle within, and knowing that the stories that we tell ourselves, we don't have to believe those. They're really lies. And it all comes rooted from some sort of trauma within childhood or something that happened to us through that. So again, I really feel like I'm getting back to the base of who that fun, goofy 16-year-old kid was that really cared about everybody. I mean, there wasn't a person in high school that I didn't say hi to, or that I didn't want to have lunch with.
Yeah.
So I really feel like I'm getting back to that guy of open arms and how can I help you? And hey, today's a brighter day, and my smile and stuff is a true smile. It's not masked anymore. Like when I'm smiling and having good, that's who I am. Like I'm not doing it so you don't understand I'm in pain and I'm on painkillers and I really am
Yeah.
drinking
Yeah.
behind all this. No, I'm a happier human being today than I was
Yeah,
3
yeah.
years ago.
I'm gonna ask you another question. Are you listening to like old '90s and double aughts like music? You like on the Warp Tour? You just playing like high school soundtracks all the time? Because I'm doing that now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll find myself. I listen to a lot of country music, and the reason I love country music is just the
Sure.
storytelling behind it.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah. Yeah.
lyrics are really powerful, and I can go to a place pretty quick. But yeah, and it's funny. I'll catch myself listening to like going to Spotify and pull up No Doubt.
Yeah.
Because I remember listening
Yeah.
to No
Yeah.
Doubt,
Yeah.
and
Little Bush and a little No
and
Doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, Bush, No Doubt, Blink 182,
Yeah.
and even the old school rap. When I was in high school, The Chronic came out with Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I was a
and
hardcore kid. I'm listening to like
and
Deftones all the time now.
yeah, NWA, all that. And what's funny is here I am, this little white gringo kid up in Billings, Montana, and I'm listening to NWA and whatever we could
Yeah.
get our
Yeah.
hands on, right? Because I mean, traditionally Montana kid, a lot of you listen to the country music. But yeah, I find myself going back to
Nice.
those old music and
Yeah.
jamming out to Toto and stuff too. So
The rain's down in Africa.
there we go. There we
Beautiful,
go.
man. Beautiful.
So, but yeah, overall, man, I really can't say, outside of the business, the business is tough, but I know where we're going, and I have, some down days or hours there just because maybe a collaboration didn't work out the way I wanted to, or the way I approached something might have been a little too aggressive. So I got to relook at that differently. And so, but man, I tell you what, for those folks that are listening out there that you're borderline, you don't understand the psychedelic world or, what ketamine is, I tell you to jump in and read because there's plenty of research out there. Whether it's from John Hopkins, whether it's from Stanford, or even an Andrew Huberman that talks about this, or yourself, right? Like these things are changing our brains, and they're regrowing these new neurotransmitters and pathways that haven't talked to each other in years. And if I can be a testament to it, kind of proof in the pudding, if you will, like I just tell people be open to this stuff, like remove the labels and just look at them for what they are. So
Yeah, brother. Well, it's been a pleasure hosting you on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to connecting with Carrie and getting her story out there as well. The complimentary
yeah,
stories from Mental
yeah,
Joe Apparel's
she's
founders.
like, yeah, this, this guy almost buried me. This goddamn guy, Chad. I'll tell you what a pain in the ass.
You got any? Those are some great final thoughts. You got anything else you want to say, brother?
No, I don't, man. I always appreciate the time that anybody wants to, throw me on air and let me air my laundry out and just talk about, how I've gotten to where I am today. And again, hopefully, whether it resonates with one people or 100 people or whatever that looks like, I appreciate any platform I'm a part of to talk about these medicines and talk about how we can be better human beings. And again, we just got to rip the labels off, look at this stuff, and dive in a little bit. We got to help. As I say, we have to own our shit. We got to hold ourselves accountable.
Well, I
So
appreciate your time and your message and your brand, my friend.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for
Absolutely.
having me on.
Doc out.